super excited to bring Sandra on the podcast. If you don't know, Sandra's played Survivor 5 times, but is known as a Survivor queen because she's done the unthinkable. And if you've been living under a rock, she's won Survivor twice. She's on this season, The Traitors. But beyond all that, an amazing individual. I describe to you when people ask me about you, what's Sandra like? What's Sandra like? I said she's real. Like, I feel like with you, what you see is what you get.
And you're forgetting one of my survivors. I did 6.
5 US, 1 Australian.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Look, the queen corrects. I'll take my correction. But Sandra, that was my takeaway from you, is like, what you see is what you get. I feel like there's no BS with you. Is that how you are in your real life?
I hope so. Yes. I want to think that I'm very frank and blunt and I don't beat around the bush. And that's why I wasn't made a traitor from the jump, because I wouldn't have had a lot of stuff to say. I think as a traitor, I would have just made things happen.
All right, so we are going to talk about we'll talk about the Traitors on front end, but the second half is really, I have a ton of questions about you because I feel like you're a very dynamic character and you've done something that's extremely difficult, right? Like, a lot of people strive to get on Survivor. You've just been so consistent and done so well. And I think there's a lot of character traits that you have that I want to learn about and learn where that comes from. But before we get into that, let's talk about the Traitors. So the Traitors, you walk in. I feel like you're so dialed into the reality TV world. When you walked in, were you surprised to see anyone? Did you know? Did you have the list? What was your preparation going into the Traitors?
When I walked in, I wasn't expecting to see anyone, not even Parvati.
You didn't see any leaks, nothing. Sandra.
I hadn't seen anything. You know, when I did see a leak, when I got to Inverness and I still had my phone in the hotel, that they were coming to take the phones away. Then I looked it up, like, why are they taking the phones? Because they said, listen, talk to whoever you need to talk to because we're coming back in an hour to take away your phones. There's been some stuff put online. And I'm like, oh my God, what is it? That's when I saw the information about Larsa and Marcus. But before then, I did, because I caught the plane from England into Scotland from Heathrow with Kevin and Peter. And all I saw for Peter was a suitcase that said United Airlines. So I was like, reality star that works for United Airlines, and Peter shows up. But I don't watch The Bachelor.
Did you recognize him, or you just knew he looked like someone that was going to be on TV? Or did you recognize him?
No, the reason I knew it was them was because when the handlers grabbed us and went to grab our suitcases, they bring the little buggy, the little luggage stroller thing, and put our stuff in it. And they all had the same papers. And then we all walked in a line to the hotel.
Did you guys talk at all?
Obvious. No, we weren't allowed to talk. And then for Kevin, I was like, Asian reality star, Asian Olympian. He looked like a bodybuilder.
Yeah, because he's jacked.
To me. Yeah.
He is a former bodybuilder.
I was like, Asian gymnast. Like I'm trying to figure out who Kevin is. But no, other than that, I didn't see anybody's name leaked. My name never leaked. This had Boston Rob was coming out here, and that wasn't so. But that was all I had seen, and that's all I knew. I didn't know the Housewives. I don't watch none of those shows. So
game-wise, beyond the cast, you'd seen the first season, and probably some of the other ones. What did you do preparation-wise to prepare yourself for the actual game part of Traitors?
I rewatched the first season. I went and watched New Zealand, all of it, Australia, all of it, UK, all of it. I tried to find the Dutch version in English so that I could understand, because they have several years of playing it. And I just wanted to do as much homework as I could on it. And that's how I always prepare, just to know what I'm getting into. And what did you take away from that? Like, going into that, what were some of the points you're like, okay, I learned this from the UK, or I at least can expect these things to happen? That if I was going to be a faithful, that I needed to be a good faithful. I needed to make sure that I didn't do anything that came off as traitorous, and to get along with everyone, because a lot of times, not necessarily the most faithful get to the end, but just the ones that the traitors are looking out for. And you remember I told you several times, like, I think I have traitor angels, like, or at least a traitor angel. And so I was like, if I'm not a traitor, which I wanted to be a traitor really, really bad. If I'm not a traitor, Angel, then I need to be a good faithful, but the traitors need to think that I'm on their side, you know? And I feel like it's worked for me so far.
Yeah, so just so people know where we are right now, so we're up into the last, there's only 10 episodes, right? Is there 11?
11 episodes, we just finished 9.
Okay, so the 11 plus the reunion. Is that right? Oh, okay, because I thought they were 10. Okay, so we just finished episode 9. Sandra, we can't, who knows what happened, but Sandra's still alive and well in the game. So my question to you is, so now here's another franchise when essentially, for all intents, you're at the end game. So my question to you is, why do you, this isn't Survivor, it's a totally different game. Why do you think you last so long and potentially win multiple games, or can be in a position to win multiple games?
I think I've lasted this long thus far with the knowledge I know now. I know Phaedra, as the only traitor in the game, doesn't see me as a threat. And although Kate came in and questioned if I was a traitor, because I was told she questioned if I was a traitor on episode 8 in the cabin in the woods, now that she in fact is a traitor, she knows I'm not one, right? But she's coming off of season 1 where Sari won and Sari was a traitor. So I think because I'm not a threat to them, I'm fine. I did mess up in this last episode. I'm sure you're going to get into it later, or I'll tell you where, in fact, I feel like I messed up as a faithful.
Yeah, no, tell me.
So in the conversation with so when we were shooting the name boards, the little glass boards with names, I did in fact look over to Phaedra and say, take out Trishelle, but only because I wanted CT to have the shield. Really, that was it. Phaedra didn't say anything back to me. She moved the little shooting thing, the arrow, and moved it and targeted Trishelle. But I feel like when CT came back into the castle, now he's feeling funny about me. He's never felt funny about me before.
In the moment when you said that, did you know it was an issue, or not until after you've seen it, like post-production, watching
watching it last night, I was like, oh my God, now all of a sudden he's thinking Sandra might be the traitor we've been looking for, because, and I've always said this is day number 1. I thought, and a lot of us in conversation in the castle thought, that there were 3 initial traitors and 1 then was recruited, making it a total of 4. So you're gone, Parvati's gone, Phaedra's still there, but who's this 4th person we've been looking for? In essence, I think that me having that conversation with Phaedra in front of CT, I don't even know why I did it. That was stupid of me to do it. I totally had blinders on and forgot that they've had an over 20-year relationship that, is stronger than anything anybody else has in that house. Didn't even think about it. But in essence, it was more like, okay, she's part of the most faithful of the faithful. She's not part of the leftovers. I see CT as part of the leftovers. Let's get CT a shield.
No,
But in doing that, it opened his eyes to Sandra's working with Phaedra. Sandra tells Phaedra, take out Trishelle. They don't want you to have a shield. They want you murdered. That's where I messed up as a faithful.
Do you think something like that in this game? Because when I played with you, I felt like everything you did, there was zero franticness, zero like off the cuff stuff. I felt like whatever you were saying at the time, it's what you wanted people to know. It wasn't just like randomly off the top of the head. I felt like it was almost like very real, but also I know when you're talking, there's nothing that's coming out that is like cloak and dagger. And so like, to see what you're saying I feel like that's not how you played the game. Was it just like a slip up or something you weren't thinking at the time?
I didn't even after, because CT actually pulled me aside and said, you did this, and I denied it. But then the way I saw it come out on TV, and they didn't show that I denied it to him, I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, oh, I heard you and Phaedra. I heard you say Trishelle. And I'm like, oh no, like, I don't know what you're talking about. But because I'm a faithful, I'm not really thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? In that aspect. But even as a faithful, you can never allow anything that you say or do be questioned. You got to stay on the straight and narrow, or you'll be suspect. And before you know it, you're banished. And you said that I don't play frantic. Let me tell you, when Janelle said, damn, Poverty, CT, Sandra, you guys are traitors, I'm like, that was frantic, because I never wanted my name to come up ever at a banishment table. Like when I saw Kevin and Peter talk about, you say my name and I'll say yours, and you vote for me and I'll vote for you. We don't do that on Survivor. You never, ever, ever, because then it's easier. It's easier to roll off the tongue next time, and then next time, and next time, and you'll have more votes and people won't care.
And I feel like that's very true in the studio view. Is like, if you're in the trade, if you're playing the game, you can maybe survive like one round table, your name comes out, two, maybe three, you're done. Like you can only, I get it, like your name's only thrown out so much, but you're saying like even in Survivor, you're not messing around with anyone saying your name, because it could just accidentally vote you out, or it makes it easier for people to do that.
Absolutely. The minute they say it, like a lot of times in Survivor, you never want to be the first person to throw out a name, because the minute you throw out a name, somebody that heard you throw out the name is going to go and tell the people you just threw out their name. And now guess what? You're not worried about me. Now it's infighting. I don't want that. So don't say my name. You know, especially me being a faithful. Had I been a traitor, I would have been even more panicked. But being a faithful, like, it's so hard. You have to maintain a certain level. You just can't veer away from that and have any type of suspicion on you whatsoever, or you're freaking gone home when they have nothing to choose from.
What are some of the things that you've drawn like direct parallels to? Is Survivor and Traitors? What aspects of those games are very similar, if not the same, for you, how you play it?
I feel like everything. The missions are nothing but challenges. You know, the shields are nothing but immunity necklaces. The people are the people. You have to get along with everyone. People want to like who they give the $1 million to, just like the traitors want to like who they don't murder. So for me, I felt like it was very similar. The difference, we're on an island versus in a castle.
How similar is the round table to tribal council?
The time, how long we spend out there, you know, an hour and a half, because although people only see 5 minutes of us at the banishment table, at the round table, we're there for a good hour and a half. I wish that they would, like on Big Brother, how we have the 24-hour live feeds, just leave the banishments unedited and let's hear what people are really saying. Like give the fans that much. They would enjoy it, because we're not being quiet, you know? People are saying what they have to say. But for me, I feel like they're about the same.
Is because behind the scenes on tribal council, is there a lot of defending yourself and like accusing people, or is it? I always felt like when we went to the round table, it was always one of two people, and like we kind of knew who that was. Is it similar for Survivor? Do you feel that to be true, or
old school Survivor, you knew who was going home before we even went to tribal council, because there was no talking. Now that tribal council is different and it's more fluid, people can change their minds and start whispering at tribal council, and then, you know, different issues happen, and a different person might get voted out versus what you went in there thinking was going to happen. But with the traitors, I feel like I always kind of knew what was going to happen, but I also always had an open mind to where if I'm reading the room correctly and I feel like the vote is going in a different way, or maybe they've swayed one or two people to vote a specific way, that I want to be in the majority and I need to be flexible and I need to change my vote. So I'm paying attention to who's saying what and body language and who's looking at who, like just anything to give me a sign, okay, I'm on the right side, or no, I need to defect.
Is tribal council like that at all? Or is it tribal council, what's out there is out there? You know, I'm just trying to, I feel like you were very comfortable at the round table. And I'm like, this is not your first rodeo in this part of the game. Did you feel comfortable?
I think I was comfortable because I did my homework, but don't think for a minute that I went in there saying, oh, I just know my name ain't going to come up, because that's far from the truth. But on Survivor, a lot of times, you know, if we're splitting votes, it's either Dan or Janelle. And if Janelle goes home, okay, then it'll be Dan and somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like you guys do that on Big Brother all the time. You're constantly putting the same people up for eviction because that's their safer bet. You already got the blood on your hands. So in essence, they're kind of the same, but it's not like I wasn't nervous. I think the most I was nervous was in the mornings trying to figure out who was murdered and hoping it wasn't me.
Well, you brought up that you were not, to this point, you're not a threat to the Traitors. And to me, that's crazy because like you're who you are, you know, like you've won a very difficult game.
But for example, Phaedra was the traitor and she thought you were the 2-time winner. You think I'm going to correct her? Hell no. Dan could be a 3-time winner, last I heard. It was Parvati. It wasn't me.
So let me ask you this. So I want to go back. You said you're a non-threat. Why do you think in these games you continue to play as a non-threat? But to me, you're a huge threat. Why? Like, what is it about what you do that you're able to either disarm people, how you maneuver? My question is, how do you survive with this huge crown on your head when you walk in a door? Because you're proving it time and time again.
Well, on the Traitors, it's different because I made sure, although we really didn't get into our kind of games and what we do on our games, the gamers, for example, I made sure to ask, well, how many of you have watched Survivor? And everyone was like, no, I've never watched it, not a single episode. Okay, well, it's simple. We go out on an island. We have to survive. We do a challenge. Whoever loses a challenge has to go to tribal council, so you better not lose the challenge. And then you build a shelter or you end up sleeping on the ground, and then you have to find food. And that was it. You make it as simple and as easy as possible. So that's what I tried to do. And then again, on Survivor, people want to give the $1 million to someone they like. So I wanted to make sure that I was likable on the Traitors by both the faithfuls and the Traitors. And often enough, I said, hey, I would have loved to be a traitor, hoping that the right person would hear me and would say, hey, Sandra's been dying to be a traitor. I think she'd be awesome. Let's bring her up here to the turret and let's, So, and when you were banished, I made it a point to be like, oh man, I hope they recruit me. And when Parvati went home, I was hoping they'd recruit me. But like Phaedra told me, she was burned by you. You're a gamer. She was burned by Parvati. She's a gamer. So she stayed within the Bravo, group because out of fear of maybe being burned again. But
there was a moment especially in the last episode I was watching, and it's like you're sitting with the housewives, and I'm like, Sandra kind of looks like she just blended with the housewives. Like you're just like all of a sudden, and I feel like you were doing that throughout the game, but it wasn't super apparent. Like you became closer and closer with the housewives. So you have this crew and you can still kind of like linchpin over to the other group where it's you talk to everyone. No one is threatened by you. And I'm sitting here, and we played, but I'm sitting here watching back. I'm like, how do you like, how are you doing that? You're still around.
John saying, I'm going to go talk to Sandra and I'm going to go talk to MJ because I still had a connection with them. You know what I'm saying? I could talk to Trishelle. I could talk to Peter. I could talk to whoever. But I think also Phaedra, I want to feel like the housewives listened to a lot of what I was saying because, for example, when Kevin went home, they were like, I remember the night before when I'm sitting there and I'm telling Phaedra like, oh my God, Peter is such a, I think I used a bad word, like he's such a traitor. Like, even if he wasn't a traitor, he was still displaying traitor behavior as far as faithfuls are concerned. I think she said something along the lines, and don't quote me, I don't want to be a liar, like, who do you think will get murdered, or who do you think has the shield? And I remember saying, well, me and Parvati were messing with the rat, with the coin in the cage for a very long time. So Kevin stayed in the room with the lights until Alan was like, hey, you guys got 2 more minutes. And then CT came to get us, and Kevin comes out, Parvati and I come out, and we're all heading to the exit. He never opened up any of the other doors, and he was scared of the bugs anyway. He just wanted to get out of the tunnel. So I was like, I know for a fact Kevin at least doesn't have the damn shield. I don't know if I had a hand in him going home, but I opened her eyes to the fact that it wasn't Kevin because he never peeped into any of the other rooms when we were going in the tunnel. So
now I think you've done a great job of that. I'm excited to see how the rest of the Traitors play out, but I have some questions for you kind of about, how you operate in terms of, so like Traitors comes along. And I'm sure
I don't know how I operate.
No, but Traitors comes along, and I'm sure you get pitched to go on a lot of shows. So for you, what is your process to say yes to a show versus no to a show?
Other than Survivor, I've never been asked to do a show.
No, so nothing else?
And the Traitors had they had sent me messages on Instagram and on other social media sites, and I never saw them because I don't read my messages. And then the VP for Universal, NBC Universal, used to work for Survivor and was having dinner with someone and brought my name up, and supposedly they made contact with someone claiming to be my agent, and that person said Sandra wants all the money up front, so then they didn't want to mess with me anymore. And she said this to the person, and the person's like, I know Sandra, I got her number, and that's not how she operates. They sent me a message, said, listen, I had dinner with such and such. They want your email. They want to talk to you about the Traitors. And I was like, oh, snap.
Yeah.
I just finished watching the Traitors. That's something I can definitely do. And so it was quick. It was quick. I was like, of course, like Jeff says, when he calls me, sign me the hell up.
So it was no brainer. But that's so, like, in all your success on CBS shows, no Amazing Race call, nothing. You've never been pitched for another show.
Nope. And
that's
as a matter
crazy
of fact,
to me.
Right before Sari and her son did Big Brother,
yeah.
I had sent Jesse a message saying, Jesse, put me out there with my daughter that had just finished doing Survivor. And she lasted 45 out of 47 days. Like, my daughter can play, and she's smart. And she's physically fit. You know what I mean? She's everything I'm not and more.
What do you? You can't say that, Sandra, because but she's had the mold to follow. Like you've laid the blueprint out.
Oh no, but she on all aspects is way better than I am. So I'm like, oh man, my daughter and I, we could go out there and nobody would even know that she's my child, right?
Yeah.
You put us side by side and nobody knows. But then he was like, no, whatever. I don't know what his reply was, but this was me saying, hey, I want to come on Big Brother way before Sari and her son even did the show. Because I'm a Big Brother fan, and I'm like, oh man,
Sandra, you would play Big Brother?
No, not anymore. No. I don't want to sit there in the house for 100 days. But
why not?
At that point when she had gotten off of Survivor, I was like, this would be the perfect opportunity for both of us to go in there and play. But instead, they did it with Sari and her son. Why not? After watching, because I do watch, sometimes the 24-hour live feeds, and I'm not a messy person, and I think messy people in general will probably, I wouldn't have a good time. And then being recorded 24/7 too. Like every time I sneeze, fart, snore,
So, to me, that's just mind-boggling that you've never been pitched on a show. But is there anything that you haven't done that you're like, this would be fun to do?
I was watching Nailed It today, the baking show, and I was like, man, they should have like a Survivor Nailed It, or even a Traitors Nailed It, where they bring 3 teams of 2, like put me, let's say me and Parvati up against like maybe CT and Trishelle, and then 2 other people, whether it be housewives or whatever, and then let us bake some goodies and try to do the whole thing, because I watch it and I laugh at the people doing the process. And here I am, I don't even know how to use the little blender machine that they have. What is it called? The big machine that
Oh, the mixer? I know the food processor, whatever it's called. Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to rewind time a little bit, because, and I'm sure you've told the story a lot, but I've never heard it. What made you apply? How did you get on Survivor? Tape or casting call?
No, I made a tape back in 2002. And
would that have been Survivor 2?
No, they were on Survivor number 5.
Okay.
Number 5. And then Jeff, that was the first time at the finale that I heard Jeff say, if you think you have what it takes, go to cbs.com and apply. And that was the first Christmas that we actually had a computer in the house and a printer. And so I was about to get out of the Army, and I told my husband, oh my God, I'm going to apply for Survivor. I'm going to go get me $1 million. And he's like, oh, you'll be the first one voted off. You won't last one day. You love to gossip. You can't keep a secret. I exaggerate. Like, just everything was. And I was like, I'm going to do it. Like, something said, do it. And I printed out the application, which back then was like 100 pages. And I was working and going to school. And then I finally filled out the application right before February when you had to turn it in. And on April Fool's, they called me and they were like, we want to meet you. And I thought it was an April Fool's joke. We want to meet you in Seattle because I was in Fort Lewis, Washington. We want to meet you. And I'm like, oh my God, tomorrow. No, I got to do my hair and I got to do my nails. Like stupid stuff, things I don't even do, but that's what was coming out of my head. And they were like, no, we need to see you as raw as possible because when you're on Survivor, you're not going to look good. But I already knew this, but I don't know why I said those things. So the next day, I go into the
like semifinal
CBS affiliate.
Okay.
No, the CBS affiliate to meet the Survivor people. And there was a bunch of people coming in and out. And they were only taking like not even 5 minutes in the room with the casting producers that came. And I did not notice that it says do not talk to each other. So I walk in and I make eye contact with people and I'm like, hey, how you doing? And nobody says anything to me. And I remember saying, well, you too, like for real. I just did not see the
That's
pictures.
probably all they needed to see right there, huh?
So they called me in and just like I'm doing now, I was just talking. 30 minutes later, they're saying, oh my God, we love you. And I'm like, okay, well then put me on the show because I need this $1 million, right? You know, me and my husband are dual military. We got 2 girls. My paycheck alone was going to daycare for my girls while I was working. And sure, I ended up on the show and that was it. And then anytime after that, it was them calling me.
Do you remember, did you go to LA for like a final casting call or was it?
Yeah, then I went to LA for a whole week. And then I had to meet Jeff Probst one day. Then I had to meet Mark Burnett another day. Then I had to meet Les Moonves. And I remember when I met him, they were like, oh my God, Sandra, you're doing so great. Keep it up. He usually meets everybody, but he's only going to meet like 6 or 7 of you. And I was the first one he was going to meet. But remember, there's not a lot of Hispanic people. I say Hispanic, other people say Latinos. There's not a lot of Hispanic people that go on Survivor. So I'm like in a pool all by myself. And I'm prior military, so they loved that as well. My husband was in, I don't know where he was at the time, deployed somewhere because my mom took care of my girls while my husband was deployed. So just everything fell into place. Anyway, I met him. I met Mark Burnett. I met Jeff Probst, and they all kept telling me, "Oh my God, we love you. You have, I have energy." And I'm like, "Look, I'm here. My alliance is to my family first and foremost. If after I'm done with the show, if the people still like me, I'll be their friend. And if not, then I'll keep it moving." You know what I'm saying? Because other than being on these shows, when would I meet someone from the Housewives or Deontay or, you know what I'm saying? Like I would never meet them. So either we become friends or we don't. It's okay. So that was just my attitude and the rest was history.
So with all your success on Survivor, you have to look back and look at that and know that it's extremely rare to get on the show, extremely rare to win, and you can't even comprehend winning twice. If you were to pinpoint one reason that you're proud of, like, hey, this is why I won twice, why do you think you were able to pull that off?
Because I tried to find something in common with every single person out there. And with Survivor, it's very stressful. And when people talk, they want someone to listen. And I was doing a lot of the listening, And that was it. I think my social game, regardless of how awful I was at the challenges, if because of me they lost a challenge, nobody ever held it against me. Because I want to think I'm a joy to be around. Like I get along with everyone. If me and you don't get along, Dan, is because you did something to me and you did it first. That's how I've always been.
And I feel like that's how you played the Traitors too. I felt like there wasn't someone in the house that you didn't connect with. I never really saw you butt heads with anyone except for Janelle. And in what you just said, Janelle started it and you were defending yourself. So does that come... How much of this is how you are in real life? Like, is this how you are in real life? Are you like amped up when you're on the shows? Or are you just Sandra all the time?
No, I think I'm Sandra all the time. I have friends from middle school and high school that I'm still in touch with. I have Army buddies that I'm still in touch with that I still see. High school friends that I still see. Like when I make friends, I don't know, it's something about a Leo. When we make friends for life. You know what I'm saying? And I don't just focus on one person. I have many best friends.
I mean, we've talked about this off camera, but you were in the military. What was your role within the military?
I was a 63 Juliet, which was a generator mechanic, but I never did that. I always worked in the orderly room, which is where the captain and the first sergeant are. And back then we had typewriters and we would just write, just type up like who needed to go to weapons training, or who needed to go to the field, or who needed to jump, or who was getting stationed somewhere else and needed to out process, who was coming in to take that position. NCOERs, OERs, everything was about typing and answering the phone about who beat the wife, who beat the dog, who owes money to and hasn't paid for their car, like just office stuff, but within the organization I worked in.
What made you join the military?
I wanted money for college.
So were you in the military 4 years?
5.
5. And then when you left, like when your 5 years was up, did you consider staying in, or you're like, I'm out and you're going to do?
No, because my first contract was for 3 years and then I re-enlisted for 2. But after my 2, I had 2 little girls. So my husband said, you go to college with your GI Bill, which I did. And then he just stayed in and he said, I'll stay in until I retire. We'll have medical and dental forever. And he did 30 years plus, because he did 30 years in 11 days.
Oh my gosh. So then you go to college. What did you decide to study in college?
Business administration.
Okay. And then were you working in the bank while you were doing that, or did you graduate then started working in the bank?
No, I started working at the bank when I came back from... I didn't start working at the bank until I moved here and made this my home in 2006.
Got it. So
I worked at the bank for about 7 years, and after the bank, I went to the law firm.
Got it.
For about 8 years. And then that was it. I never did anything else.
So once you won Survivor, then you're like, I'm good.
No. I always worked because Survivor doesn't pay you until after the finale. So when I worked for AFES, which is the Army and Air Force Exchange Service at the time that I did Pearl Islands. So they put me on leave without pay, and then I went back to work, and then I stayed with them even after I won. And then on Heroes versus Villains, I was working at the bank and I went on leave without pay, and then I came back as well.
When you were working at the bank, would people come in and know who you were?
No.
Really?
Because a lot of people don't expect to run into you and see you. A couple of people knew, because even so, some of the other girls that worked with me on the teller line were Survivor fans, but didn't put 2 and 2 together. And then we started doing like every new season we do a Survivor pool, and then they started realizing who I was. But then I went the second time, and they were waiting for me to come back, and I never told them how I did, but I was gone the whole time. But they knew I'd be gone the whole time, whether I was voted off first or not. But I came back so skinny and so dark that everybody was like, if you didn't win, you made it to the end. Like, you went far in the game. And then the people from the bank, everybody was telling everybody and putting up pictures and stuff like, watch her when the season comes out on TV. So then people started knowing who I was. But I don't sit out there and I don't tell people, oh, you don't know who I am? I'm Sandra from Survivor. Everybody don't watch Survivor.
Yeah. So let me ask this, because you mentioned your daughter earlier. At any point, like, how do your daughters, like, when did they start to realize, like, you know, you did what you did? And like, how do you feel like they feel pressure to compete as well?
They were 6 and 8 when I did my first Survivor, if I'm not mistaken. They were 6 and 8. No, they've never had pressure because when I come home, I'm back to PTA mom and running the family support group for the Army, like being a volunteer within our organization. So I always would do other little things to where I wasn't focused on just Survivor, because back in the day, like, Survivor players didn't keep playing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I never expected this to be my career.
So you talk about like Survivor players playing over and over again and the evolution of the game. I know you've been asked this a million times, but Survivor 50 is coming up. Is there, for you to make a decision on that, is that a decision for you to make, or is it already made? Like, for you, what's going to go into that decision?
The phone call, actually. I always say no because I know the pain and the torture and the toll it takes on my body. When I did Australian Survivor, that was probably the hardest of all my Survivors ever. And I was 47 when I did it. And I had just come off of Winners at War, leaving the edge of extinction. A lot of fans not being happy with me leaving the game or slash quitting the game, as they call it. So I was like, man, I have to do this one because I need the redemption to show them that I can sit out there for 47 days. I can sit out there for 39 days. It doesn't matter to me. The point is that once my torch is snuffed, I'm out. Like, there's no... I hated on the Pearl Islands when the players got to come back. You know, when Burton and Lil got to come back and play again after they had been voted off. And I hated the whole edge of extinction where after you're voted off, you go sit in an island hoping to get an opportunity to come back in the game. I didn't care for those things. So when it happened on Winners at War, I was like, nah, I'm over this. I just did 36 days with Boston Rob on Island of the Idols, which we were living out there for real. Was home for 10 days to then turn around and do Winners at War. So I was over the whole situation. But when they called me for Australian Survivor, I said no, but they said, hey, it's a blood versus water. You could bring a loved one. I immediately said yes and called my daughter and my sister, who both wanted to play. They've always like, get me on Survivor, get me on Survivor. And, but anyway, when I got the opportunity to go, I was like, this is what I need. I'm not going to complain about the challenges. I'm going to try not to sit out because, you know, I always sit out of the challenges. I don't feel like there's a need for me to participate. But I was like, this is a different Sandra. This is a new Sandra. This is an Australian Survivor Sandra. I have to play.
But what made you feel like you had to do that?
Because of so much flack I was getting from the fans.
Like,
she always sits out. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't deserve it. But there's a lot that goes into what we do other than playing in the challenges.
So you wanted to say, hey, look, like, as if winning twice wasn't enough, let me show you one more time why I am who I am.
Exactly. I said, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to participate in I ain't sitting out of nothing. And then I sat out of 1 out of 14 challenges. I sat out only at 1 towards the end.
And so part of you deciding to do the Australian one was, you know, for you to like show that you still got it or that you can do all that stuff. And then how big of a factor was playing with your daughter?
No, playing with my daughter was the only reason I said yes.
Okay.
Like, Australian Survivor is no joke. It is 47 days minimum. It used to be 50. They trimmed the fat because of COVID. 3 days is not trimming the fat. And their challenges are way harder and they really, really suffer.
Did you feel like at any time when you decided to do the Australian version, was there any pushback or any contact from the CBS family like, hey, what's going on? Or was it just go do your thing?
I just do my thing. I don't ask for permission.
No, but like, I mean, I'd imagine, and I think things are different now, but like, you know, their flagship star going, you know, to play somewhere else, there was never any discussion, like they never reached out and said anything. No.
Russell was the first Survivor. Russell Hance was the first one to go play an Australian Survivor. And then I was the second. So for me, in a sense, it was as long as I last longer than Russell, I'm good, no matter what happens. So I already went prepared to go home because they're like, why is this American coming all the way over here to play our Survivor, right? So I went over there thinking, okay, this isn't going to last long. And I did a good job there too.
So, I mean, and this is the first time with the Traitors that anyone's really taken people from different shows and put them together. Is there any time, like at any point, where you're like, okay, like this thing's going to start to kick up again for you? Because I feel like no matter what, like up to this point, you're through 9 episodes. There's 2 episodes left. You've, you know, proven once again, like you're a threat in any game you play. If you get another call to play another game, are you done? Are you open to things? Or where are you at right now with continuing to compete in these shows?
Call me, and if you can't get a hold of me, call Dan, and Dan will get hold of me.
So you're wide open. So, but you did skirt the Survivor 50 question. So you said it's grueling, it's tough. Survivor 50. I mean, is it just a matter of how big the bag is?
Not even the bag. I mean, I'd have to go in there thinking, all right, Sandra, it could be that you're one of the first people out, but I don't think that necessarily affects me because the fans know that they're going to target me because I'm the first 2-time winner. And I held that title for over 10 years. And now Tony's the second two-time winner. I'm not going to say that I wouldn't go, but I'd have to wait on the phone call to hear the details. Like, I just would hope that there's a lot of players my age and not just a bunch of 20-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, I got you. But I mean, I'm not trying to paint a picture, but I have a hard time visualizing something big happen for 50 and you watching that at home on the couch. I know, we played for a couple weeks together, but knowing what I know about you, I'm like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way you're not going to be there.
It could be because on Winners at War, not all of the greatest players were out there. We didn't see anything from Richard Hatch. We didn't see Todd. We didn't see Earl, Vesepia, Tina. We had a bunch of new school players, and you know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't bring the best of the best out there.
I mean, I understand that, and I know you're humble, but come on, it's like you're at the top of the mountain. So for you to not, I mean, I think it's. And I'm super biased, and I think I don't know if you got a feel for this, but when I was there playing with you, like, I was genuinely excited as like a fan to be there with you because it's just different.
Well, and I was happy that you were there, and I was like, could Dan be my traitor angel? Because he knows I have nothing but love and respect for him.
Well, we had met once in 2009, but I think just being able to spend that time with you, and like I said, my wife is a huge fan of you, and she's never seen Survivor. She's a fan of you from the Traitors, and she's like one of a ton of people. What's Sandra like? What's Sandra like? And I think walking away is just like, you're real, and I feel like you're real, and you play hard as a game player. But even outside of that, you are who you are, and I think that's why so many people are drawn to you, is because I feel like sometimes you go on a show and you're like, okay, this is an act, but with like, you're kind of like one of the refreshing, like, breaths of fresh air. It's like, you are who you are. And I think that's why a lot of people love you. And it was such a pleasure, to get to play with you. And I just wanted to make sure
I appreciate that. And I think it's because I'm Hispanic too, that I check that box when it comes to diversity, when it comes to like, wait a minute, we need to mix it up. Okay, well, we need our sassy Puerto Rican to come over here and
who also, by the way, won Survivor twice. No, I got you. So as we wrap things up here, Sandra, when you like encapsulate everything, I have two final questions. When you walk away from the Traitors, what do you take away from that experience as what you enjoyed most about it?
Oh man, every aspect of the game was thrilling. I enjoyed everything from flying over there to flying home to everything in between, the meat and potatoes. Like, I expected the missions to be way easier than Survivor, and these missions actually hurt me, like physically, you know what I'm saying? Like, scarred me, especially the next one that we're going to do. And then I'll post about all my bruises when it happens. Everything about the Traitors was awesome, and I am so happy that they contacted me when they did, and I am ecstatic that I didn't read those messages from season 1, because I think that would have been a huge disappointment after seeing how season 2, how it all went for us. Like, season 2 was the right season for me,
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad I missed those messages, because I didn't belong on season 1. I belonged on season 2.
No, the cast was amazing. And my final question for you is like, when your reality TV book is closed and you're like, okay, I hope people who watch me on Survivor or Traitors or Survivor Australia, I hope this is what they take away from me as a person, as Sandra is watching me on TV. What do you hope people take away from you and everything you've given to reality TV competition and entertainment?
That I always kept it real. That I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And it's hard when you pretend to be something you're not, but it's just easy to be you, and that's what I try to be every single time, just me. That's my legacy, the sassy Puerto Rican 2-time winner of Survivor that is happy with how her life has turned out. If I die tomorrow, do not cry for me, because I have lived a hell of a good life. I really have.
Well, Sandra, I think you've made a lot of people happy, and don't say that, because we know you got a lot of what I would call, as a football coach, you got a lot of ball left in you left to go. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Don't let them cry for me. Don't cry for me. Don't cry for me. And we're doing that Traitors cruise, the cruiseofdeception.com, for anybody that hasn't heard of it. we're going to try to play the Traitors for 7 days on Royal Caribbean, headed to Jamaica and Haiti. So
yeah, go sign up for it and make sure you're on Sandra's team because, I mean, if you want to win, get on Sandra's team.
No, my team is booked. You're done. There's other teams from Traitor season 1, but like Rachel, Bergie, Janelle, Stephanie, and our teams are booked.
Good for you. Good for you. Sandra, where can people keep up with you? Where are you most active online?
Now, believe it or not, it's Sassy SDT on Instagram.
Okay, we'll put that in the link. Sandra, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you, and even more so getting to play with you.
Don't be a stranger, and I'll see you next week.
I'll see you soon, Sandra. Thank you.